The day my granddaughter told me she was ashamed of me. I was standing in her high school auditorium, holding a bouquet of white roses. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked at me, like I was a stranger, and said, "Please stop pretending you're the victim." That was the moment I realized. The story I had told myself for 20 years was a lie. And the betrayal? It wasn't hers. It was mine. My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I am 70 years old, and I built my life from nothing. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, married at 19, divorced at 23, single mother at 24. My daughter Claire was my entire world. I worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day, bookkeeping at night. I never dated seriously again, because I told myself, I will not let another man ruin my child's life. Claire grew up watching me fight, watching me survive, watching me sacrifice. And somewhere along the way, she also learned to resent me. Claire left for college in California at 18. Stanford. Full scholarship. I remember hugging her at the airport. She didn't cry. I did. "Mom," she said gently, "I need space to grow." Space. That word felt like rejection. I told everyone how proud I was. But secretly, I felt abandoned. She visited less and less. Then she met him. Jason Miller. Tech entrepreneur. Soft-spoken. Rich family. He wasn't like the men I knew. He didn't struggle. He didn't hustle. He invested. And I didn't trust that kind of comfort. At their wedding in Napa Valley, I smiled for pictures. But when Jason's mother talked about their family legacy, I felt small, invisible, replaceable. Then Ava was born. My granddaughter. Tiny, fierce, bright blue eyes. When I first held her, I promised myself, I will protect this child from everything, including mistakes, including weakness, including her own parents. That's where I crossed the line. Claire and Jason moved to Seattle. Big house, clean lines, minimalist furniture. I visited when Ava was 5. She was already using an iPad, already correcting adults, already independent. "She's very strong-willed," I said. Jason laughed. "We encourage critical thinking. Encourage, not discipline." That word bothered me. When Ava refused to eat dinner, Claire negotiated. When Ava talked back, Jason explained calmly. In my world, respect was not negotiated. It was expected. I pulled Claire aside. "You're raising her too soft." Claire's face hardened. "Mom, please don't start." I didn't stop. And that was mistake number 1. I never insulted Claire directly. I was smarter than that. Instead, I whispered advice to Ava. "When I raised your mom, she would never talk like that. In my house, we didn't question adults. You know, your mom used to be much more respectful." I thought I was guiding her, but I was planting seeds. Seeds of doubt. Seeds of division. And children are more perceptive than we think. That changed everything. Ava was 13 when Claire called me crying. "She thinks I'm controlling." "Well, are you?" I asked. Claire sighed. "Mom, please." I felt justified. Finally, Claire was seeing what I saw. But then Claire said something that shook me. She says you tell her I was different when I was young. I stayed silent. She says you make her feel like I'm failing. I didn't deny it. Because in my mind, I wasn't betraying Claire. I was protecting Ava. That's what I told myself. Last spring, Ava invited me to her school debate championship. She was 17. Confident. Brilliant. Sharp. I brought white roses. After she won, I hugged her tightly. "You were incredible," I whispered. Then I added, "See what happens when someone pushes you." She pulled away. "What does that mean?" "I just think sometimes your parents are too lenient." Her eyes changed. In that instant, she wasn't a child. She was a young woman who saw through me. "You always do this," she said quietly. "Do what?" "You pretend you're supporting me, but you're criticizing them." My chest tightened. "I'm just being honest." "No," she said. "You're competing." That word hit harder than betrayal. Competing? With my own daughter? Ava's voice trembled. "You never let Mom be enough." People were watching now. The auditorium lights felt too bright. Then she said it. "I'm tired of you acting like you're the victim of everything." The roses slipped slightly in my hand. "Please stop pretending you're the hero of this family." And in that moment, I felt exposed. Driving back to my hotel, I replayed every memory. Claire at 16, crying because I wouldn't let her go to prom after AB in math. Claire at 22, choosing California over staying close to me. Claire at 30, asking me to respect her parenting style. Every time she chose independence, I interpreted it as rejection. And every time I felt rejected, I tightened my grip. I called it love, but maybe it was control. 2 weeks later, Jason called me. Not angry. Calm. Eleanor, he said. Ava needs space from the tension. I never created tension. He paused. You don't see it. That's the problem. Silence. You're not competing intentionally, he continued. But you measure everything against how you did it. I wanted to argue, but exhaustion stopped me. What if I just wanted to matter? I whispered. Jason's voice softened. You already did. That was the first time someone said that to me. Without sarcasm. Without defensiveness. I wrote Claire a letter, but I didn't send it. In it, I admitted. I was jealous of her stability. Jealous she didn't struggle the way I did. Jealous she didn't need me to survive. I realized something terrifying. My identity was built on being needed. And when she stopped needing me, I didn't know who I was. So I inserted myself. Again and again. Calling it love. Calling it protection. Calling it experience. But it felt like betrayal because it was. Chapter 11. The silence from Ava. Months passed. No calls. No invitations. No updates. I watched her Instagram stories quietly. College acceptance letters. Graduation pictures. Family dinners. Without me. And for the first time, I didn't blame them. I blamed myself. One evening, my phone rang. Ava. I almost didn't answer. Grandma, she said softly. Yes. I got into Columbia. My heart exploded with pride. That's incredible. Pause. I don't hate you, she said carefully. But I need you to stop fighting ghosts. What ghosts? The version of mom you still think you're competing with. Tears rolled down my face. I never meant to hurt her. I know, Ava whispered. But impact matters more than intention. That sentence sounded exactly like something her mother would say. And for the first time, it didn't feel like defeat. It felt like growth. I flew to Seattle. Not with advice. Not with roses. Just humility. Claire opened the door. Older now. Softer. Tired in ways I never noticed before. I'm sorry, I said. No defense. No explanation. Just truth. I confused control with love. Claire cried. And for the first time since she was a child, she hugged me like she needed me. Not because she depended on me, but because she chose to. Sometimes betrayal doesn't look like cheating or lies. Sometimes it looks like love that refuses to evolve. And sometimes the hardest thing a woman must learn is how to let her daughter win. After I apologized to Claire, something strange happened. She forgave me too quickly. That's how I knew. She didn't know everything. There was a truth I had buried for over 40 years. A truth that shaped the way I loved. The way I controlled. The way I refused to let go. And it started long before Claire was born. No one talks about. I was 19 when I married Richard Whitmore. He was charming. Confident. Older by 6 years. He promised stability. After growing up poor, stability felt like heaven. But stability turned into control. Control turned into isolation. Isolation turned into fear. Richard decided who I saw. What I wore. Where I worked. When Claire was born, I thought he would soften. Instead, he tightened his grip. You don't need friends, he used to say. You have me. I believed that once. Until the night I didn't. Claire was 3 months old. Richard came home angry. Business failing. Money tight. I suggested I go back to work. He slapped me so hard I fell against the kitchen counter. Claire started screaming from her crib. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not fear. Resolve. I left 2 weeks later. No savings. No plan. Just my daughter and a bus ticket to Pennsylvania. I never told Claire the truth. I told her we grew apart. I didn't want her to see her father as a monster. But monsters don't disappear just because you rename them. After the divorce, I built armor around myself. No man would control me again. No child of mine would ever feel unsafe. No one would ever have power over my family. I thought that made me strong. But armor doesn't just block harm. It blocks intimacy too. And when Claire started making her own choices, my armor interpreted independence as threat. Because once, independence had nearly cost me everything. A month after my apology, Claire invited me over for dinner. Just the two of us. Ava was preparing for college. Jason was traveling. It felt like old times. Halfway through dinner, Claire said quietly, "Mom, why did you really leave Dad?" My fork froze midair. "Why now?" I asked. She held my gaze. Because Ava asked. My heart started pounding. What did she ask? She asked why you react so strongly to control. The room felt smaller. For 40 years, I had protected Claire from that night. Protected her from the image of her father hitting me. Protected her from knowing she was raised in fear before she could even speak. And now the past was standing at the door. I told her everything. The slap. The isolation. The manipulation. Claire didn't interrupt. She didn't cry at first. She just listened. When I finished, there was silence. Then she whispered, "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to carry it." Claire shook her head. "Mom, I carried it anyway." Those words pierced deeper than anything Ava had said. "You carried what?" I asked. "Your fear." She took a shaky breath. "You were always afraid I'd choose the wrong man. Afraid I'd be controlled. Afraid I'd suffer like you." I couldn't deny it. "Yes." Claire's voice cracked. "But you never trusted that I was strong enough." That was the real betrayal. Not the criticism. Not the advice. The lack of trust. 2 days later, Ava came home from a college orientation visit. She walked into the kitchen where Claire and I were sitting. "I know," she said softly. "Know what?" I asked. "About great-grandpa." Claire must have told her. My first instinct was panic. Then shame. "I'm sorry you had to hear that," I said. Ava surprised me. She came closer. "I'm not angry," she said. "I'm sad." "Why?" "Because you never let yourself heal." That sentence hit like truth usually does. Unexpected and undeniable. "You fought so hard to protect Mom," she continued, "that you never realized she didn't need protection anymore." I looked at this 17-year-old girl and saw wisdom I never allowed myself to grow into. Life rarely waits for emotional clarity. 2 months later, I collapsed in my kitchen. Heart arrhythmia. Stress-induced, the doctors said. I spent 3 nights in the hospital. Claire stayed the entire time. Ava flew back from New York for 1 day between college prep events. Seeing her standing beside my hospital bed, I felt small, vulnerable, human. "I don't want you to think you have to be strong all the time," Ava said quietly. I laughed weakly. "That's all I know." "Then learn something new," she replied. While lying in that hospital bed, staring at white ceilings, I understood something brutal. I didn't control because I was cruel. I controlled because I was terrified. Terrified history would repeat. Terrified love would fail. Terrified my daughter would suffer the way I did. But fear disguised as wisdom still hurts people. And I had hurt them. Not with violence, but with doubt. Before Ava left for Colombia, she invited me to coffee. Just us. "I need to know something," she said. "What?" "When I start making decisions you don't agree with, will you trust me?" It was the question that defined everything. 40 years ago, no one trusted me to survive. I survived anyway. Now I had to choose. Trust or control. I took a deep breath. "Yes," I said. "Even if it scares me." Ava smiled. That's all I ever wanted. The day we dropped Ava at college, I didn't give advice. I didn't warn her about boys. I didn't comment on her independence. I hugged her. "That's it," she teased. "That's it," I said. And for the first time in my life, letting go didn't feel like loss. It felt like faith. Sometimes betrayal isn't someone leaving you. Sometimes it's you refusing to let them grow. And sometimes the greatest act of love is trusting someone with the freedom you once had to fight for. It was a cold November morning in Pennsylvania when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Eleanor?" The voice was older, rougher, but unmistakable. "Richard. My ex-husband. The man I hadn't spoken to in over 40 years. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "I didn't think you'd pick up," he said. "I didn't think you were alive," I replied. Silence. Then, "I'm in New York. I'd like to see Claire." The words hit like a punch. "You lost that right," I said immediately. "I know," he answered quietly. "But I don't have much time." My stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" "I'm sick." I didn't tell Claire right away. For 2 days, I carried the information alone. Old fear started whispering again. What if seeing him reopened wounds? What if Claire blamed me for hiding him? What if Ava thought I was protecting her again? History was knocking. And this time, I couldn't control the door. So I called Claire. "Your father reached out." Long silence. Then, Is he okay? That question surprised me. He's dying, I said. Another pause. I want to see him. My chest tightened. Claire. Mom, she said gently. This is my decision. There it was. The moment of truth. Trust or control. I'll support whatever you choose, I said. And I meant it. The hospital in Manhattan smelled of antiseptic and endings. Richard looked smaller than I remembered. Cancer had stripped him of arrogance. He saw me first. I never thought you'd come, he said. I didn't come for you, I replied. Claire stepped forward. He started crying immediately. I'm sorry, he whispered. For decades, I imagined this moment. I imagined rage. I imagined confrontation. Instead, there was only exhaustion. Claire listened as he spoke about regret. About drinking. About losing everything. He tried to explain that fear made him cruel. That pressure made him violent. Excuses wrapped in vulnerability. I waited for Claire to look at me. To seek guidance. She didn't. She handled it herself. Strong. Composed. Not fragile. Not controlled. Not broken. In that moment, I realized. She never needed saving. When Ava heard about the visit, she flew in from Colombia. She wanted to see him too. I was shocked. Why? I asked. Because trauma doesn't disappear if we ignore it, she said. This generation. They face what we buried. Ava walked into that hospital room without fear. She asked questions. She listened. She didn't accept manipulation. She didn't carry hatred either. Afterward, she sat beside me in the hallway. You protected Mom from him, she said softly. Yes. But now you don't have to protect her from herself. That sentence healed something ancient inside me. Richard asked to speak to me alone. I almost refused. But closure isn't always comfortable. I was threatened by you, he said weakly. You were strong. I almost laughed at the irony. You mistook control for strength, I replied. So did you, he whispered. That stung. Because it was true. Different method. Same root. Fear. Before I left, he said, you built something better without me. For the first time in 40 years. I didn't feel anger. I felt release. Richard passed away 2 weeks later. Claire cried. Not because she forgave everything, but because grief is complicated. Ava held her. I stood slightly behind them. And for once, I didn't step in. I didn't guide. I didn't fix. I let them process it their way. That was growth. 2 years later, Ava called. Grandma, I'm engaged. My heart leaped. His name is Daniel. I laughed. Of course it is. He's kind, she said. Calm. Not controlling. She paused. But I need one promise from you. Anything. At the wedding, don't give a speech about sacrifice. I smiled through tears. Deal. At Ava's wedding in upstate New York, I sat in the front row. Claire looked radiant. Jason looked proud. And I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Peace. When Ava walked down the aisle, she glanced at me. Not with resentment. Not with judgment. But with love. Later, she pulled me aside. You changed, she said. No, I replied softly. I healed. Looking back now, I understand something clearly. My granddaughter never hated me. She rejected the version of me that refused to grow. The betrayal was never about disrespect. It was about evolution. And sometimes the hardest thing for a woman who survived everything is to stop surviving and start trusting. I thought I was protecting my family from the past. But the past didn't need protection. It needed honesty. And sometimes, the greatest strength a grandmother can show is letting the next generation be stronger.